Aloha, and welcome to Power Reflections, a proud member of the Doof Network, where we reflect on Wildbow's most unfinished work as it releases. I'm Elliot Diebold.
And I'm Malia Webb.
Woo! And Jenny was going to be here, but has apparently chosen her job and the health of other people over the podcast. But she may join us later. It was funny that, so when it was going to be the three of us, I mentioned to her, I was like, well, we'll have to pick which one of us is each Kenneteer. And she was like, oh, that's easy. Malia's Avery, you're Verona, and I'm Lucy. And then obviously now she's run off because she's obsessed with work and she's gone off ahead. She's doing work and she's off on her own. So, I mean, it holds up. It holds up.
Yeah. There's something there.
But yeah, we'll get to ragging on Lucy's teamworking ability when it's her turn. But first, yeah, we're coming at you live in the Discord. Huzzah! We're going to talk about 24.4 Avery and then 24.5 Lucy. I somehow forgot Lucy's name.
Doing a 3-hour podcast one day and then coming back 24 hours later
I know.
For round 2 is more painful than I anticipated. But
yeah, I had a 2-hour nap yesterday. I bit off more than I could chew this weekend. I think my original plan was to live read these 2 chapters between the episodes, and then I sort of woke up from my nap and I was like, "Oh, that's not happening. I'm just going to read them like a normal person." Yeah, I guess let's get into it. We got finish off 24.4. It's an Avery chapter, and she's getting in some lacrosse practice by just hurling goblins and opossums around to scout for her group.
Woo! This chapter is, just thinking about it, like, last chapter and then these 2 chapters, are like fit together really neatly in the sense that it's like each Kenneteer's first little section of the plan, and also every one of these chapters was like such a downer for me emotionally. But this one was the fun, like little high point. Like I think just the like Pauline in the middle, like, and how terrifying that was to just be like, sometimes this woman is stranded by the universe. Like that was really upsetting. And then, but like the goblins helped. So thank God for goblins.
You're right. Like this is very much. I can see why. Like originally, when we were scheduling this, you kind of pitched doing these 2 chapters and the one before it in one episode, and I can really see why now, because they really are like a trilogy. For each Kenneteer, and it is sort of each of their vibes kind of dialed up to 11. Like Lucy's is intense, and we're going to get there. That was a rough chapter. Whereas Avery's is like, intense, but yeah, it's flinging goblins around with a lacrosse stick and like fighting Tooth Fairies, which are scary, but also that's kind of funny. Like, yeah, like you're right. Like there's each one is really pretty intense, but also very much suits its particular Kenneteer.
Right. Verona's is like really like big, cool practice. Yeah.
And then some body horror because
Yep.
She doesn't like normal stuff. I also love, like, last chapter Verona sort of outlined these 3 teams for us, and she was like, yeah, Avery's team is the really mobile one. They're getting people around, like she's moving people around the battlefield was one of the things that was mentioned. And then this chapter literally opens with Avery just picking people up and throwing them around the battlefield. And I was like, you can never underestimate how simple Avery will make a task. If Avery's told to get goblins around the battlefield, she will just throw them around the battlefield.
Also, it was fun that it was her lacrosse stick. Has she like swapped out her hockey stick, or maybe does she have 2 charms now? Because that's fun, and I don't remember if we knew that.
Yeah, I think this is one of the first times she's used it in a practice sense, right? Like she's incorporate, like lacrosse has become enough of a part of her identity that now she's going to use it on the job.
It's pretty fun.
It is.
Because I feel like it's been a while since we've seen her use a hockey stick too. So
yeah, true. Apparently she's used up all her hockey sticks. So
okay.
But she's getting more into, like, isn't lacrosse her sport in Thunder Bay? So I don't know.
Well, I was gonna think like weather, but it is snowing, so I don't know. I guess
I
she
don't
was doing it in
understand.
the fall.
Yeah, I don't understand all these foreign sports. Um, we need the pale, like the Australian pale adaptation where Avery's flickering between like AFL and cricket.
What's AFL?
Um,
So like rugby?
Australian football. We have our
Yeah.
own one. It's weird. I can send a video to people who are interested on how to play AFL. It does not make
Cool.
sense to foreigners. Um, it's also very violent. Um,
Huh.
we also meet Rantalion, who is a fun goblin, and I was like, I don't understand this name, so I googled it, and I regret doing that because, like, how does Warbo know this word exists? Is my question.
I didn't Google it. No, I'm glad I didn't. But um I didn't want to based on the little song, but also it was great. The song was great. It was great.
The song kind of covers what it's about. And I love the delivery of that. Like Avery kind of commenting, she's like, "Oh, so it's a nipple thing?" It's like, "Nope."
No.
But this is just like, okay, Rentalian. The big thing about the word is that it was like slang used in like the 18th century, and part of me is like, did Wildbow encounter this word somehow years ago and just has like a gigantor brain that remembers stuff? Or like, how would you go about looking like if you're concepting like a testicle skin goblin? Like, how do you what are you googling to find words like Rantalion? You know?
Yeah, I'm really bad at coming up with search terms, but I bet like sometimes as like a break or like, just when the like mood strikes or whatever, like researching different like goblin names and potential goblin attributes could be a thing. So not necessarily just like it could have been something that came up in the research of like weird goblin themes.
Yeah, I guess I'm curious on what, like, because like I've just googled for science weird testicle words, and Rantalion has not come up. Like I'm just there's
Science
some
ocean.
very specialized Google foo I would think you'd need to be able to encounter words like Rantalion, and I find that impressive.
That's true.
Anyway, Gashwad also comes up and continues to be. I've taken to calling him a Chekhov's dumb. Because he's like, I mean, he's building up to something. Will it be cherry
Well,
popped here? We'll see.
it's interesting that he's following Avery in this instance. Maybe he realizes that like Lucy's going to go too fast and too hard.
Yeah.
Um but I love that another little goblin is the one that finds him because that must have been like so infuriating. Like he must have been like so pissed and like embarrassed, like just so
It's such an idiot. And I love Avery's reaction is just kind of like, oh, yeah, he's a friend. Like, it's just, he's so disappointing. He's just such an idiot. Like, maybe he came because this is where all the goblins went. Like, I feel like Gashwad's thing is that he wants to be a loner, but he probably isn't as much as he'd like to be. Um,
Hmm,
so I wouldn't be surprised if it's because Liberty and the goblins came this way that he did too. Um, and he might
that's
tell it.
true.
He might say to himself it's because he wants Avery to summon him, and then he'll do cool stunts in front of the goblins and impress them. But I think he just wants to be around his fellow goblins.
Yeah. Yeah, that might be true. Um yeah. I just also think though the next chapter Lucy's probably impossible to keep up with. So
Well, yeah. Maybe he tried doing Lucy, and like she started charging into the storm, and he was like, nope." Um, we've also got sorry, it is also just funny that he picked Avery because so far she's the one who's been in a conflict he really couldn't have helped with. Um, but yeah, Thea is also back. She's really fun. Like we're still. It sounds like she's going to come in later in the plan. Avery makes a comment about how Thea's main bit is still coming in later, which that's exciting.
mhm, with the
But Thea's
bus.
just so fun. She's like somehow super serious, but also pointlessly dramatic. Like I love how she's like, I was the head like general of an army in the country the size of North America, and Avery has to be like in a board game. It was a Jumanji. It doesn't count.
No, I'm picturing her like all in like yellow or whatever, like those or not yellow, but like khaki, like that Safari Colonel Mustard guy in Jumanji.
Yeah. From Jumanji.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that.
That'd be a look.
I mean, that was my school uniform at my school, more or less. We had a different hat. We had like a
Oh, bummer.
cowboy
I
hat
was gonna
instead,
ask.
um but like the shirt and pants were effectively that, and knee-high socks that were also
Love,
khaki. It was a look.
yes.
I'll send, I posted photos of it somewhere. I can send you some of those. There,
Yay.
um it's not the best uniform. Um, but yeah, I think as well, like a big thing, like while we're talking about like the Kennetia energies being dialed up to 11, Avery has always been the most uh, like goblins in this story have always kind of been, I think, or often are used as like metaphors for like kids and children,
Mhm.
juveniles. Um, and Avery's always been the most tied into that because the paths also kind of overlap with that aspect. And I think it's really
Hmm.
fun how the goblins are here and like Thea and Liberty kind of have this argument about being taken seriously. And I really enjoyed that because like Liberty's take is very much the like, well, you know, she's literally talking about being a cartoon and being really childish. And that and Thea can't disagree more. And I kind of love that because Thea is also kind of a child. Like we see whenever Thea gets to choose her own form, she chooses a kid one. So she's like stuck as a kid, but in this really broken way. Like she's still, yeah, stuck as a kid, but then also she can't have fun like kids. She's just kind of broken. And that's what makes her super interesting to me. And I'm like,
Hmm.
I just want more of Thea. I find her fascinating.
Yeah, she gives off a this might sound like incredibly harsh. She gives off a Lucy vibe to me in the sense of like she's a child but she's serious.
That comparison is there for sure.
Like it'd be interesting to see them interact more. But yeah, like Thea kind of gives off like annoyed teenager vibes.
Yeah,
Um
yeah.
a lot.
Yeah, and I just, especially in the back half, I think we talked about it in the last episode, but this story has been focusing a lot on the concept of growing up and transitioning from being a child to an adult. And Thea is a particularly interesting angle to explore that through because she's really fucked up in that regard. Like she's like 30 or something, isn't she? But like
Mm,
mentally stuck as a teenager in some ways. Like, yeah.
mhm.
Anyway, so hopefully we'll see more from her when she does whatever the fuck they're planning.
Yes. Um it was fun with like the Liberty um her defense of who she is and how she practices was really fun. Um and I think that it was really like made a lot of good points in terms
Yeah,
of like in a cart like Wile E. Coyote can like have an anvil dropped on him and he lives or whatever, right? Like
yeah.
convincing the spirits that like I can bounce off of these walls and then, and not get hurt and like is huge. And yeah, I just remember there were things last night where I was like, "Oh, I want to talk about what Liberty said, but I can't yet." And I don't remember
Yeah.
specifically what it was, but um she's fun. And it was interesting when she was kind of like, "Yeah, like but also if Theo wants to come after her or whatever, like she could probably take Liberty, but one, she's Anthem Ted's daughter, so that's a bad idea. But then also like all of the goblins in Ontario or whatever will like be upset about that.
Yeah.
Like like the little cute ones or whatever, and like a theme we talked about a lot yesterday was like strength in numbers, even when they're like little
Yeah.
dudes.
Even
Um,
cherry pops.
Right, and the idea that like Thea is so alone and like she
Mhm.
sort of has Otis or whatever, but like a lot of Liberty's strength comes from fun, but also comes from like the hordes of tiny children that she surrounds herself with, and then
Yeah.
her dad, which is a big privilege card, but also yeah.
Yeah, but well, as Mirthstrike just pointed out in the chat, like those goblins also had to cause Anthem to step down. So technically, you've got evidence to say they're the bigger threat.
True.
Um, yeah, and I mean, like this is it's one of those things where it's like this is to me like this is the part of the other verse that I always tell people about first. I sometimes forget. I'm like, oh yeah, and also people doing magic can't lie. Like that's an important part of the setting. But the one that is always the first thing I tell people about is like the spirits because I'm like basically everything is controlled by these little spirits and they're just kind of drama queens. And so all the magic essentially comes down to can you convince the spirits you should be allowed to do the magic?
Mhm.
And like what Liberty's talking about here is one of those perfect examples of why this is the best system in fiction, because it's like, yeah, I'm just going to act like everything's a cartoon, and that these spirits are going to be like, this is so fun, and they're going to go with it a bit.
Mhm.
Like, that's just so awesome. And like, I mean, it kind of suits, like, that's, I feel like Avery does that a little bit accidentally too. We used to see her
Uh-huh.
intentionally do stuff with air spirits, and she knew that air spirits are like goofy and stuff, so she'd like lean into it. But I also feel like her himbo energy just kind of does something similar. Like Avery's just kind of walking around, putting one foot in front of the other, doing her best, and I feel like the spirits just want her to keep doing it.
Uh-huh. Uh, she's a she's a gem.
She is, and I have to believe that like the spirits are just like, this girl's just doing funny shit and like saying anime lines as she does it. Like, yes, please.
And in such a like she's not being super serious about it, but she's not like making
No,
fun of herself really. She's not like, that was dumb or whatever. Like she's not completely playing it up. She's just like so genuine and
yeah, yeah.
silly, and it's great.
And just like, you can't help but like, it's that, inability to plot and scheme that is part, like, Avery's just doing the equivalent. She's just walking along, and it's like, it's simpler for the spirits. There's none of these grand schemes. Avery's like, I'm gonna go do X, and it's so clear. Like, that must be so nice for the spirits. There's no extra layers with Avery. She's just doing it.
Mhm.
Um, I also continue to really enjoy all the aware and how they like keep commenting on stuff. We saw it a lot with some of Verona's things last chapter too, but in this one, like, we get so many things where you get like Wallace being like, "Oh, that sounds cool. Like, I'm really interested in this practice," and then Jeremy will be like, "Oh yeah, I want to do cool pocket worlds with Thea," and then Avery's like, "Oh yeah, you still clipping the wings off kids' souls?" And like Jeremy sort of takes a few steps back. He's like, "Oh, sorry, what?" And like, it reminds me of what Zed used to be. He was kind of playing like the straight man um in the story. Like, we've got the aware just sort of helping to remind us of how insane everything here is. Like, they're kind of the
Mhm.
audience surrogate to just remind us and react and be like, "Hey, that's crazy."
Mhm. And it's fun their perspective. Like at one point George says like, "Oh, I see why you bailed on Kenneth cuz like there's so much other cool shit happening." And it's like
Yeah.
their perspective is like Kenneth is boring. Like everyone in their town has left. Like or not, so many people in their town have
Mm,
left, and they all grew up like wanting to leave. Like being stuck in Kenneth is like we've seen like Booker's friends like having problems with drugs and like all this other stuff when they didn't make it out. Um, but yeah, also just having fun, interesting questions that make
yeah.
sense based on okay, magic is real, so like dot dot dot, and it's just like really fun.
Yeah, I think it was in the last chapter that one of them called out. Oh no, it is in this one. I think it's Wallace who's like, I think I've heard 4 or 5 different people tonight say the practice is all about X, Y, Z. It's just like just little comments like that where it's like, yeah, good point. Um, Also,
Yeah.
I just while we're talking about our little group of aware, I had to call out this moment where like Jasmine brings up something Lucy used to do as a kid, which actually sounds pretty heartbreaking and intense. And Mia is like, "Oh, that's so cute." And it's just like, I feel like I'm beginning to understand why Mia was so cool about Avery being gay at the start of the story, because it's getting harder to picture Mia as completely straight.
Right, and I'm not sure that she realizes that, but she is like kind of obsessed with Lucy.
Yeah, like,
Um
and it could just be like a friend crush thing.
Mhm.
Like, that's a thing. Um, but like, she's got some shit that she needs to resolve regarding Lucy in some form or another.
Yeah. And she's great. And just it I'm so happy that like at the end of this chapter Jasmine is kind of like, "Hey, whoever wants to come with like we're, you can leave this war zone now." And it's really nice that basically it seems like Wallace and Jeremy and Mia and George and probably
Mm,
more of them like decide to stay.
yeah,
And I hope, none of them get hurt or anything really bad, but then like we see Avery finally gets the police on the phone and Mia just kind of like takes it and starts, like doing her thing. And
Yeah.
It sort of reminded me of Raquel for some reason, but just very like she's gonna be good at some things. Like
Oh yeah.
she'd be an amazing blackguard. Like she just I don't know. Like it was so fun.
Well, she was always a bit of a social, like queen bee butterfly type, right? So like that, she's got that like charm and charisma stuff to talk bullshit, probably. So like, I
Uh-huh.
could see that. Um, Also, so yeah, while we're talking about the difference between friend crush, I learned, and I'm not going to give the exact date, but embarrassingly recently, that the term shipping seems to apply exclusively to romantic relationships.
Uh-huh.
I thought you could like ship people as friends, and apparently I've probably said some really embarrassing stuff both on air and on Discord the last few years because I would just comment that I shipped two people, and I just meant I wanted them to be friends.
Yeah, I think Jenny!
Hey, Jenny.
Um Wamba mentions it's pretty loosey goosey. When I hear the term ship, I think romantically. Um, but like I've definitely talked about wanting people to like be friends or be in each other's lives, and I feel like I'll say like I friendship them, but also yeah, it's probably like a romantic centric whatever mindset to be like, oh yeah, shipping is about monogamous
Yeah, I definitely
relationship, like
knew.
romantic relationships or whatever.
Yeah, I definitely knew it was like 80% of the time. I thought people were meaning romantically, but I would like, yeah. Anyway, okay, that's good. I'm kind of getting relieved because the conversation I had about this with someone else, it was made clear to me that it was exclusively romantic stuff, whereas everyone here seems a little bit more on my page, which is context matters. Anyway,
Yeah,
um,
I think I would assume that it was meant to like I think I agree that I like would assume that you meant romantically. Um but that's probably more of a me problem than a
I don't know. I mean, the communication's a two-way street.
Yep.
Um, but yeah. Anyway, so the gang reaches the town that's just south of Charles's new settlement, and things actually seem pretty dead there. Nobody's around until Figueroa shows up, and then we wish no one was still around because he is the worst.
I wasn't expecting this man to be this horrible, and he's so horrible. And like, I don't even remember what his aware power is. I think Avery sums it up as like asshole related magic, and I'm like, what does that mean? Like, why
Yeah.
is he here? Like, what does he just go away? Like Sharon, it was like she makes magic break, but like, what does he do?
Here's thing. No, I'm pretty sure this is the guy from Clem's interlude who did the bad parking. And his thing is he gets good karma for doing bad karma things. So like,
Right,
if he's an
right, okay,
asshole and like disrespects like the rules of hospitality and stuff, he gets better karma.
right.
So yeah, like basically he's been trained by the universe to be an asshole. And that training has been extremely successful. He is the like I would actually I he was talking and I was like I kind of wish Sharon was here instead.
Yep, yep, yep. He sucks so bad.
um I also thought it was really interesting. Avery compares this town to Kennet a lot as she's kind of walking through, but like really hammers in that this place is nicer and richer and like, more successful. Um, but then also kind of notes, well, as we learned, there's not really any local other council or something. Like it seems to have a much smaller other presence than even Kennet did at the start of the story.
Mm.
And I just couldn't help but think that like it's interesting that this is where Charles set up shop. It's like a town that is very similar to Kennet because he's unoriginal. But now it's this nicer, shinier one that he's just outside, which feels, after he's made this deal with London, I don't think that's an accident.
Yeah, it that is interesting. Just that I mean, he's just stuck in a rut, you know.
Yeah.
Like same with his whole, I hate this cabin and I will build this cabin.
Yes,
Like,
that's what I
but I
was
will
about to
not
bring up.
change anything about it. Like, my God.
But when he built that same fucking cabin in the new settlement, right? Like he's just, yeah, like, oh, the dude needs to visit a path and get some imagination for fuck's sake. Um, I also thought it was really funny. Like Avery's walking through this place and thinking to herself, "Wow, this is so much nicer. There's all these hotels. They do helicopter rides. It's so much cooler." And she's kind of thinking that to herself, like right after she just gave that speech she talked about to George about how actually Kennett really fucking rules. Like she's sort of like, this is Kennett, but if it was working. And part of me's like, if you guys can get your markets to not be invaded for 15 minutes, you're going to be way cooler than this dump. Like Kennett is set up to be a fucking capital city of magic in the country at this point.
Yeah, I'm wondering if part of that is yeah, it reminds me of her like Kennett aboviness. Because when we
Yeah.
walk around Kennett, it's very much like, oh, here's these abandoned buildings, and like here's where the people who like are addicted to drugs are, and here's where these other people like here's people are only here to ski like for a couple months because they like can't afford to go ski other places or whatever. Like it's not like I think she's looking at the
Yeah.
innocent side of it, but also there's that aspect of it where I mean depending on what they're able to do with awareness in this region, um but it seems like the innocentness of like the helicopter rides might conflict with the magiciness. I don't know.
Yeah, no, 100%. I guess I just thought it was funny that she has those thoughts just after explaining to George why actually Kennett is better, because it's like, wait, the whole point is George is sort of like, oh, I could see why you left Kennett. She's like, actually, if you don't look at it through just that Kennett above lens, Kennett
Mhm.
fucking rules. And then she sort of turns around and is like, wow, this place is so much nicer than Kennett and more successful. And it's like, no, you literally just gave this speech, Avery. It's not. That's the point.
True.
But yeah, there's also like when she gets everyone to scatter, there are a bunch of foundlings with her, and it's just funny every time like Luna takes off her mask and then she like hunches her shoulders forward and she's got a hand at her face. Like foundlings being embarrassed and like having all this shame around showing their faces will never stop being funny. I love the absurdity of path humor.
I mean, it makes me like really proud of her. Like, you know, she's being really brave. Um, like, because I was thinking, yeah, like if I was in a place where I had to like completely take off all my clothes from like the waist up or whatever,
Yeah.
and like part of it is like if everyone else was doing it, it might be something that felt fine. Um, but yeah, just sort of try to put myself in the mindset of like this is like
Yeah.
being naked. Uh
Yeah.
and I know she hates it. So I was like, "Oh, like that's really thanks Luna. That's awesome." I don't know.
Yeah, it is. It's just there's so much humor to be had out of that. Yeah, the absurdity of all that, like because
Mhm.
it just doesn't make sense to me. I'm like, it's just your face. It's fine. But like it is the same to her as being naked, and that's just funny.
Mhm.
Um, also, we should talk about the other aware that we met. We touched on Figueroa already, and I'm fine leaving that there. But I really love. I think my favorite of these new ones is probably Harold, who's always right, except he's also wrong. And we kind of understand what that means by the end of the chapter, but it doesn't really make sense at the start. And it's so like it's such a fun gimmick.
Yeah, it's perfect for a story setting or something.
Yeah,
Like but also just yeah, it's got to be really frustrating for everyone ever cuz like would you ever get to the point where you could figure out what he was actually trying to say? Um
I feel like probably
Bro,
not, because I think once you do, um, then the universe would probably tweak it so that you can't. Like, I feel like that's probably
figure it
part of the
out.
built-in
Yeah.
gimmick for the spirits.
uh he was fun.
Um, there was also Vaughn, the the guy who always is the butt of the magical joke.
Oh
That's
my
fun. Part of me's like a little upset that we're meeting all these guys though, because I'm worrying that Wildbow is throwing out ideas he was going to use in Plex, but maybe isn't anymore.
god.
But
Well,
then
maybe he's just
also, I'm
establishing the groundwork, you know?
yeah. I mean, because I'm kind of now hyped for a Plex in Ontario after the Kenneteers have done their thing, where awareness is more fluid.
Mm.
Um, and then also, I don't know, we get the thing with Clem and Ten Mercy, and my first thought was Ten Mercy for villain in Plex, like. So I don't know. I feel like I'm talking about Plex a lot recently. I just I'm so curious if that's still in the cards or not. I was so excited for it.
Yeah, it is. I mean, like, I feel like the Aware are a really interesting aspect of this world, that I want to know more about, and especially the type of Aware that the Sergeant
Yeah.
Hall people are. It's so fun.
Well, that's I like Plex is both more and less interesting to me if it is taking place in an Ontario where the Kenneteers are doing their awareness plan. Because part of me is like,
Mhm.
oh, it does kind of suck. Like, I would have enjoyed the story that was just aware in the status quo that we're used to. I think there's a lot to play with there. But then there's probably more interesting big picture stuff to do with aware in the Kenneteers world as well. So I'm kind of mourning the loss of one version of that story, but also the new one probably is objectively more exciting.
Yeah, I mean, the idea of like, thinking, okay, if Clem's the protagonist and she's going around and like managing the building and like weird shit is constantly happening that she doesn't quite get is like really fun, but also
Yeah.
it might be more satisfying to be able, for them to
To
just sort of
follow
be
that
like,
growth. Yeah.
right. And I mean, Avery does at one point talk about how, cuz Pauline and Vaughn step out for the Tooth Fairy fight because they don't want to be more exposed because like their shtick, like they're like they don't want to run the risk of that getting worse. And so there's still the
Yeah.
potential for there being that type of main character or something that has reasons to not like be as exposed. I don't know.
Yeah, well, the lines get a lot fuzzier. Um,
Mhm.
like, so you can kind of vary how much and how much each character grows and stuff, which is cool. Wobbo has said Plex is still in the cards in some shape
Woo!
or form, I assume. So that's exciting. Um, I am glad I kept whining about it now. Um, anyway, yeah. So speaking of all our new aware, Avery also chats to Pauline to try and get the lay of the land, but they get a bit sidetracked as they do that.
Yeah, this part was so scary. Um,
Yeah, it's pretty rough.
just like uh, being stranded in like it sounds like Pauline could end up in like various realms. Um, and it's like not to places she's like been before. Like it's not like the same destination every time. Like, and on the one hand, it's nice that she can bring people along with her, but also if they're like mad about that, like just it's awful. Um,
Yeah.
she should just. This is horrible. I wonder if she became best friends with Sharon and spent all of her time with her, like, would it fix it? Or would.
Oh, that's not worth it. Sorry, I'd rather get stuck in
Not worth
weird
it.
tunnels.
Yeah, maybe.
Um, yeah, I agree. But it's that thing where it's like we talked a little bit last episode with the Verona thing about how this is kind of an opportunity for each Kenneteer to do their own thing, like in as the leader of their own niche. Like they split the group up into
Mm.
three teams, and each team is like one of the Kenneteers writ large. Um, and so this is kind of Avery's chance to be a leader. And the first thing she does is there's somebody who the universe is trying to isolate and take away from everyone, and who's like, "Oh, just leave me here." And Avery's like, fuck no, we're getting out of this together." Um,
Mhm.
and that's just so perfectly Avery. Like she, her of course her leadership style is leave no man behind, and she won't let the universe isolate someone. Like this is just perfect for her.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
especially because she does this by just chatting to the woman. It's like, oh, the way to disable your power is to just have a conversation. All that stuff, like connecting to her as a person and like asking about her daughter and all of that. Like that's also just that's what Avery do. She treats people like humans and connects to them. It's so yeah. Um, like I love how we've landed. Avery is the person who's got the group that like is less connected to her than everyone else's. Like, Verona got a bunch of blue heron-y practitioners because she's New Alexander basically, and like Lucy got all the combat people, and Avery's got a lot of the like people who are one step out of everything, and like that's her, and she's great to control, well, work with them and keep them together.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, so then anyway, eventually Avery and Pauline make it to Dead Tim's. And okay, sorry, I get into this. Avery and Clem arrive. Sorry, Avery meets Clem at Dead Tim's, where Clem catches her up on the hot floss. The gang isn't having much luck convincing the locals that they're telling the truth. As Avery braces herself to get involved, masks come off, and we learn that these locals are actually cavities filled with tooth fairies. Not one to let this gum up the works, Avery turns this fight into the molar opposite of conflict by making a peaceful deal. Pause for laughter.
So I didn't fully read this whole thing. I just was like, barely skimmed it to figure out what part of the chapter where to put my notes. And I remember seeing Hot Floss italicized, and I was like, I don't remember them doing any dance moves. And then
No, it's my Tooth Fairy puns.
No, I get it.
Sorry, the internet must have been futzing out because I wasn't hearing just the huge amounts of laughter I would have expected.
It's so bad.
Now hold on, I'm just going to make a note. So Jenny, are you here? I can't hear you if you are.
Oh wait, there you go. Let me try that.
Hey,
wait. Yay! Okay, haha. It only took me. I'm not going to tell you how long it took me. It took me a long time, but that's okay. I'm here.
Yay!
It's funny. I started
Jenny.
laughing at welcome me. I started laughing at something earlier because I thought that I did enough because I just went on to Zencaster and I was laughing and you guys weren't responding and I was like, geez, that's really rude to just ignore me like that.
Well, I wasn't getting any of the due laughter I was owed at my great tooth pun, so I'm going to assume that's what you were laughing at. And
I did not hear your tooth pun.
What?
Oh. Well, I'll do it again. Listen up. No, I'm not going to put everyone through that again.
Okay, I'm guessing it was not. Never mind. It's fine. We're gonna be nice.
They were extremely funny.
So funny.
Yeah. So how's it going? I mean, I know we're in the middle of the episode, but I just want to pause it for a second.
Yeah, it's okay. I'm like the queen of sidetracking, so this is kind of perfect. I'm doing good, but I'm like cautiously optimistic that I can stay in the call for the rest of the time.
Hell yeah!
But I can't predict that.
Fair enough, because you are on call at work. Yeah,
I'm on call at work, so I literally could be called in right now, which would be a bummer because like I'm really comfy right now. So I don't really want to get up, but I'll do it if I have to. But
I need to give Jenny a special shout out just while you're here because you almost acted like our travel agent for the first chunk of our trip in Hawaii. We shared our original plan of what we were going to do with Jenny, and she fixed it. That was really, really handy. She also gave us a bunch of great food recommendations, some of which
you didn't go to.
Some of which we did and were great.
Oh my gosh. I gave them this big list because they went to Oahu, where I was not going, obviously, because, well, I guess maybe that's not obvious, but I didn't go to Oahu there with them. And I gave them this big list of amazing places, and they went to all chains. All chain restaurants. The only thing that makes me feel better is they really wanted to go to Denny's, but they didn't do it.
Or as we called it, the Jenny's.
Yeah, no. I'm so mad. Yeah.
No, the stuff like the Road to Hana. I think we had the Road to Hana down as like something we were going to do in half a day, and Jenny was like, "No, that's not accurate." And she was right. So a lot of stuff like that. So we owe you big time for making a trip in Hawaii as good as it was.
Oh, good. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that.
I don't know if you remember, but you gave us a great tour of the house as well during the wedding reception.
Son of a bitch. I gotta bring that up. Yes, I gave a wonderful tour of my house, or my mom's house, and I'm sure I was a great tour guide. I had a lot of alcohol because I was celebrating Malia. Hey, Kippos!
Hey.
Yeah, you're listening. I just figured out how to get on here. But yeah, it was really good. It was really, really, really fun. It was great to meet y'all in person.
Yeah,
That's-
absolutely. I don't know if you remember
Except-
yelling at me because I couldn't play the clappy games with you.
Oh, wow! I forgot about that.
I don't know what you
Yes,
call them.
wow.
You know the games where you sing a song and you like do
Yeah,
high
you know, like
fives?
the hand games. You know,
Okay,
wow!
sure.
I forgot about that. Like the like.
Jenny was not impressed with my
Oh
skills.
my gosh! Wow, that I honestly did not remember that until you said that just now. What was
You
I?
were very upset that I had none to teach you, and I was trying to explain to you that I went to an all-boys school and we just did not have that there, and you were not having it. It was very funny.
Okay, someone else needs to get married next time because I feel like I didn't get to spend enough time with y'all, and I'm bummed.
I've been trying to
okay.
pressure the rest of the Aussies to get married, but none of them seem to be in a big rush, which I think is
I
very
mean-
selfish.
So yeah, similar to patty cake, except like not patty cake. Like it. Do you remember? You know stuff like that, Malia? Do you remember?
Like Miss Mary Mac or like the
Yeah,
Down by the River or the
yes,
yeah.
exactly. And I was trying to get Elliot to like teach me some like Australian versions, and of course he just like does not. Was not willing to share the secrets.
Yeah, that's what it was. That's an accurate representation of what happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is I mean, I don't know. I was Baker's Man. That was I think that was it. That's the one I remember, I think.
Patty cake? Oh, Kookaburra.
That was a good camp
That was a
song.
good one.
I know that
like,
I know
we
that
used to-
Kookaburra song. I don't know the hand gestures that would accompany it.
Is there I don't know hand gestures for that either, but
Well, I think if you're like
Oh, wow,
sitting
this
around
is
in a
different,
circle
actually.
and you slap in the circle,
I feel like
maybe.
we never got to the last line. How many
Right.
gumdrops will he leave? Or we actually count? Dang. No, we never did that. Mom skipped that last line. Maybe she knew it was a bad idea. I can see that. Yeah, and Malia, I took them inside and I showed them because I still had this the first bottle of legal alcohol that I've ever bought at 21 is a bottle of Patron that had about half left, and I insisted that they take a shot with me with it, which I don't know why you guys did that, to be honest. But they were being very nice or very nice guests. And yeah, I tried to take the cork out and it completely disintegrated.
The cork came out.
It came out, but like half of it fell into so I had to get like a sieve. I got a sieve and like poured it into shot glasses so that they wouldn't have to drink cork. And they did it.
Well, and we saw your mom's stamp room, which is amazing.
Insane.
I can see why she is able to make all these really cool cards for Our Mom Protects the Wild Boar, available on the Tooth Media Network.
Yeah.
That was a room and a half. That room just kept going. It went like around a corner and everything.
And then it has like a walk-in closet. Yeah.
It's bigger than like our bedroom.
Oh yeah.
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 It might be bigger than her bedroom.
And at some point there was a cat in it.
There's a what? A cat?
There was a cat at one point.
You got attacked.
Yeah, we were just standing there talking. And the cat just bit me on the back of the leg, like play by it, like it didn't draw blood or anything. It was like we were just standing there, and then suddenly there was this like sharp thing pushing in the back of my leg, and I turn around, this cat just disappears behind a cabinet, and nobody else saw it. And I'm like, is there a cat in this house? Because I think it just attacked me.
She used to be a lot more of a psycho kitty. That's what Mom would call her, psycho kitty. But she's a lot more chill now than she used to be. Her name's Nella.
She's Siamese.
Although Mom calls her Kitty, which is really confusing because for some reason the lady that lives in my mom's house, she calls herself Kitty. So Mom will start saying things like I think her name's Kitty peed all over the floor and it was she'll just start saying things like that, and I don't know, it's a little confusing.
Right, because our mom's tenant basically is Kitty, and they're friends and whatever. And and also there are multiple cats that live at the house. But
Yeah, you were telling me about
Yeah.
Butthead?
Oh,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
but oh, that's that
Butthead-
story we told that was that.
passed away.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
And
Caboodle is the other cat that's like
The other
mostly our
cat.
cat, and there's
There
a
used to be
couple
one-
that come by.
Yeah. Dad named all the cats basically, except for Nella. But yeah, there was one that used to be called. There was one that Tripod, right? I don't know.
Oh,
what happened to
yeah.
Tripod. Yeah.
I remember Tripod. Tripod never came close though.
No. No.
Did
And-
Tripod have 3 legs?
Yes.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. Good. It
Um,
would only make sense.
yeah. I'm currently, well, speaking of pet names, I'm really ticked off. So my parents are getting 2 dogs. And
Oh.
I've had 2 dog names lined up for years, and I'm starting to realize I'm never going to get these dogs. So I've been trying to
Oh.
bully my parents into giving their dogs my 2 dogs as names, and then, I'll just keep walking them until I make their dogs love me more than them, blah, blah, blah. It turns out their neighbor, that dog already has one of these names, so they can't use it, and I'm just really mad. So one of
Oh.
them's Maggie, named after one of my favorite characters in a
Yes.
fictional story. And the neighbor's dog is already called Maggie, so they can't use it.
So that just means you have to start walking the neighbor's dog.
Oh yeah, I was gonna try and force them to move, but that's probably more ethical.
I mean,
something shorter,
ethical is
like
kind of
Mag
like-
or Mags or something.
No,
Yeah,
I mean
that's
that
true.
was just a nickname, but the full name has to be Maggie.
I feel like saying it's more ethical. I mean, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know about that, but oh, thank you. Yeah, see, I just show up and fix all your problems. So there you go.
Well, there was that one. I was trying to
Yes.
figure out how to get pog juice here in Australia, and I was like, "See, we only have orange and passion fruit juice and guava juice. There's none that's all 3 of them together." And then, 2 hours later, you were like, "Couldn't you just mix them?" And I was like, "Fuck, I've already gone home." But why didn't I think of that?
I know. I didn't see that message until it was too late. But
Yeah, it's just like one of those things.
which,
I was
yeah,
like,
guys,
why did I need someone to tell me that was an option? Obvious. Anyway.
did you talk about Pog yet?
No. Oh, yeah.
this-
Pog juice is this cool thing they have in Hawaii, and it's very nice juice.
It's just amazing.
Mhm.
Yeah, passion orange guava, and they sell it either in they sell it. Well, a lot of times you get it in a gallon jug at the grocery store, and you just take that to potlucks or just have it in the fridge to have every now and then. It's so freaking good, man.
Mm.
So good. Yeah. Kippos was really skeptical because she was asking about she was like, all they have is something called Pog, and I'm like, they don't need anything else. And she's like, okay, whatever. And she tried it and she's like, oh my god, you're right.
Yeah, it's actually
They
really
don't
good.
need anything else.
And it goes really
It's
well with Malibu if you want alcoholic Pog.
Honestly, any kind of alcohol. We had when we were getting ready for Malia's wedding, mom brought orange juice and Pog for mimosas, and she said Pogosas, which it was pretty good. It was
They're
so
great.
good. There's
Yeah.
Pog hard cider.
Well, they had
There was
Pog seltzer and stuff at the brewing company you took
Yeah,
us to.
they
They
did,
had
but,
Pog beer and things. Yeah.
they had a Pog sour. Okay, maybe Bailey's isn't very good with that. Son of a bitch. Okay, not everything. This is why absolutes are not good. Okay,
Yeah.
maybe
What was doing-
non-creamy.
I remember there was a time at college where a bunch of us got really high, and one of the guys was like, "Every job sounds cooler if you put astro in front of it," because he was doing aeronautical engineering, but he wanted to transfer into astro engineering,
Mhm.
and he was like, "Yeah, it was every word sounds cooler if you put space in front of it." So it was space engineer, space janitor. Blah, blah, blah. And then it was like,
okay.
you can't tell me a job that doesn't sound cool with space in front of it. And after 2 seconds, this super stoned guy just goes, astronaut. Because space astronaut
Space
does not sound any cooler than a regular astronaut.
I mean, that is a good point.
And we were just laughing for 15 minutes after that. It was so good.
That's great. That is so great.
Yeah, well, but I think that's because we used to make birthday cakes at college, which is you'd mix fruit juice, Bailey's, milk, and white rum, and it would like curdle and get really solid, so you had to drink it really quick. And I don't know why it was called a birthday cake, because it wasn't a celebration, but they were
I've never heard
gross.
of a birthday cake shot.
Don't do it. It's
Don't do
like a college initiation thing, like it because it curdles. So, it was beer. Sorry, yes, it was beer,
Oh,
orange juice, milk, Baileys, and white rum, and it
Ew.
goes solid. And if you drink it quick enough, that takes place halfway down your throat. Yeah, it was funny to drink. It wasn't fun.
There's what is it like? I don't know. I'm trying to remember of all the drinks in college. I don't know. The only one that really reminds me of, which is not really the same thing, but it curdles, is an Irish car bomb, which I didn't realize how terrible the name was at the time. But it does taste like chocolate milk. It tastes like chocolate milk, pretty much.
Right, they're really good, but I don't know what the better name is for them.
Yeah, maybe like not what it's called, but yeah, it's like you have to chug it or it just curdles.
Yeah, cement mixers I've heard of. Yeah, good stuff.
Cement mixer. I mean, that doesn't sound like that would be a good thing to drink, but
a tapeworm shot's the one that just have like a bit of mayonnaise or something in it, so
what
and
the
that
fuck?
it like congeals. Yeah.
Ew, what?
What the fuck is this? What? Have you had that before?
No,
Have any
I've
of
just
you had
heard
that
about
before?
I haven't had a tapeworm shot, but I want to.
No.
Kippos, I didn't notice that you replied to something.
Look at them.
At first, I thought you were saying that just sounded good.
Sorry,
a lava
I'm
flow is
responding
really
to chat.
good, which is not yes.
I had
that's not a shot, but
I had a virgin lava flow cocktail at the luau, because I also wasn't drinking at the luau. I made a lot of poor choices with regards to when I didn't drink.
I mean, I feel like there's not a lot of times where like you say you made a really poor decision because you didn't drink, but it might have been worse.
See, no, I feel the opposite. I
that
keep
picture
regretting
is the worst thing ever.
Yeah, I keep regretting not drinking these days. I feel like I was more or less sober at the wedding, and I was like, man, I can't dance because I'm sober. Like, I think I would have enjoyed having 4 or 5 more drinks in me.
Yeah.
And my New Year's resolution was to drink more to build up my tolerance for All Packed Up 2, and I have not been doing that. I keep not drinking enough. I'm doing Biscuit. She'd be so disappointed in me.
That's so funny. I kept, apparently around the time when I was getting really mad at him for not knowing like the clapping games, I was trying to peer pressure him into drinking champagne, and I kept forgetting that he was designated driver. I got everyone else to drink. We were in a circle in a tent. We had dragged the fire pit underneath the tent, which probably doesn't make sense to you guys, but it makes sense. And it didn't work. You didn't? I didn't remember, but I thought I got everybody. It probably wasn't anyone. I probably didn't convince anybody to drink.
I almost got it. There was a game we were playing where you had to go around and say something interesting about yourself, and I had nothing interesting about myself, and I almost got out of playing that game before Kippos fucking dobbed me in as somebody who hadn't gone yet. I'm still mad at her for that, actually, now that I think about it.
I don't remember what I said.
Was there.
He was there for a little bit at least. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I think he got dragged away because you were trying to leave or something.
I was like, Ben can stay, but also we have a flight tomorrow, but I'm leaving.
It was like 1 a.m. or something. Yeah. But should we...
Oh yeah, actually
get back to talking about Pale?
Yes.
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
So I think the last thing... Well, I'll just pick up where we left off. Arriving at Dead Tim's, Clem catches Avery up on the hot floss. The gang isn't having much luck convincing the locals they're telling the truth. As Avery braces herself to get involved, masks come off, and we learn that these locals are actually just cavities of skin filled with tooth fairies. Not one to let this gum up the works, Avery turns this fight into the molar opposite of conflict by making a peaceful deal. God, you know the worst thing about having to do that again is Vice Versailles in our chat just dropping better puns than this, and now I know to go to her next time I want to write something like this, because she is killing it in the chat.
It's really good.
Like this incisive summary, that's so good.
Oh.
But yeah, I love this reveal of the Tooth Fairy stuff. Like for me, it was very unexpected. I was kind of like, okay, something weird's going on, but I like didn't know what it was. I thought somebody was doing a Sleeping Beauty spell or something, and then suddenly we're fighting fucking Tooth Fairies that are horrifying, and then Snowdrop comes in and she's like, "You're safe now," which was hilarious.
That was so good.
And then Clem manages to bite the Tooth Fairy because she has dentures, which is hilarious. Like it was so fun.
That was really great. Oh my gosh. Yeah, that was really unexpected. And yeah, the dentures, man, that got me. That was great.
Well, and I loved it as well because Avery, like, Clem bites down and Avery's sort of like, oh, that's a mistake. And I loved that because it was a mistake she made like 2 paragraphs ago.
Uh-huh.
Oh my gosh. I forgot that about Tooth Fairies in the story. And then, it was just like, oh wow. I forgot about this little horror thing.
Yeah, I think this is the first time we've really seen them in person.
Yeah.
Like, Verona had that mate who was one that comes up in a bit, but like, yeah, they're horrifying. I also like again, this is one of those things we already talked about it a bit, Malia, but this is Avery at her maximum Averyness because she just manages to solve this peacefully by using a name of a person she's not even met in real life. In fact, she's met a friend of a friend in an alternate reality, and she manages to turn that into cutting a deal. Like it's so perfectly Avery.
Yeah. It's, I mean, like, good for her remembering this, like,
yeah,
and good for Verona for mentioning it, I guess, but also it's just, like, crazy. And this made me really like these fairies a lot more. Like, I feel like Fae in the Otherverse get a lot of shit for being, like, the absolute worst, and they deserve it, but, like, you know, fairies with the, like, IRY tend to be, like, pretty cool, I think. And just the fact that they were like, yeah, like, that's legit, like, we honor that. Like, I think they also didn't want to keep fighting, but also
I was about to say, I think they were partially motivated
cool.
by trying to get out. Whereas, yeah, like a fairy with an AE would be like, they'd have more tricks up their sleeve and they're more difficult to get them to surrender, where the fairies with a Y will chill out more easily.
Mm-hmm.
Also, so I've heard Wildbow rag on Tim Hortons. I'm assuming Dead Tim's is like an intentional dig at Tim Hortons. Because I think they did a bunch of shit stuff. Like Avery mentions an old scandal, and I feel like I've seen Wildbow specifically reference a Tim Hortons scandal with like underpaying employees or something.
Oh,
so
I'm out of the loop on that.
Yeah. So apparently Tim Hortons sucks, and yeah, okay. Well, I'm getting confirmations in the chat that this was in fact a direct dig at Tim Hortons, which I like.
And their coffee is bad. I'm like, shoot, I had wanted to go to Tim Hortons just from hearing about it, but now I can't do that anymore because apparently they suck and they're evil.
Yeah. And their coffee is bad now. It's worth pointing out, Vice Versailles is Australian, and as we had
oh my gosh, you guys are such coffee snobs.
Australians and coffee, it's just a lot. And you know, an Australian saying a coffee's bad. If you live in any other country in the world, take that with a grain of salt. Every Australian is a massive coffee snob. As somebody who doesn't drink coffee, they're insufferable.
All right, you guys, whenever I go to Australia, because I'm going to go to Australia now sometime, like, I better have the best damn cup of coffee I've ever had in my life. Okay?
Yeah.
Because I've had some pretty fucking good coffee before. I mean, not a lot of it, but I've been, like, there was
sometimes, yeah.
There was this coffee shop that used to be that closed, which I was really sad about, but it used to be by my university in Oahu. That was like amazing. It was so good. And Kippo's called like American coffee. What did she say? Like she said it's all sludge.
Yeah.
She said it's all
as somebody who
sludge.
lived with a handful of Australians in California for 2 years, it's just they're always like this. The coffee drinkers from Australia, it's just I know, like, it is a thing. Like in Australia, like my sister specifically drives an extra 15 minutes on her way to walk every morning to go to the good coffee shop. Like it's just a thing here.
Yeah, I think that Kippo's had coffee that was at a restaurant or something, and I guess they didn't make it well or how she liked it. But she also did try chain coffee. She had some Starbucks, but
that's right.
It also, I mean, it was like a caramel macchiato or something, right? So
yeah, she
that
got
doesn't
some
even
sugary
taste like
abomination.
It doesn't taste like coffee. That's why
Yeah.
it's good.
It's a milkshake. Yeah.
Well, yeah. It's good. It's good stuff. I was like, come on, Hawaii's famous for coffee, Kona coffee. That's like a big thing. And so I was all appalled that she
wasted on Australians.
Yeah.
Um
Just wasted. I'm like, yeah, sorry. I better try some Australian coffee sometime. It better like make me
better
levitate,
blow your mind.
or like it's gonna it's gotta do something amazing.
So going back to Pale as well, we learn that these Tooth Fairies, and we see our old mate, the Tenant, later in the chapter 2, they all seem to be Aurum people, not Carmine. Which just seems like the Aurum is, up to some tricks, and I think the Aurum was not in the meeting with Percival and Charles, so I'm kind of assuming he's going to be kind of one of the big bads at the moment, like in this next conflict, as well as the Kims. It just seems like maybe this is the Aurum's time to step up, or hopefully not, and get trounced. But yeah, I don't know, it feels like we're leading up to some Aurum shenanigans, which is exciting.
Yeah, I'm hoping that Avery kicks the shit out of him, because fuck him, and she deserves it.
That's a good point. Yeah, it would be just... Oh, well, we know, I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but we know Grandfather has his special bullet that he got that it sounds like he was saving for Charles. So it would be funny for Avery to shoot the Aurum in the like gut. Anyway, or if maybe a funnier version is like the Aurum gets hurt and is like on the ground and has to ask Avery for help, and then she can get to be like, I'm better than you, because she probably would, after extorting some oaths, hopefully.
It's so good.
Yeah. This is a bad segue, but Mr. Black. I'm really into him this chapter. I think it's fun that he's like he said something about, oh yeah, like, us shopkeepers are good at talking to people and convincing people of stuff or whatever, and Avery's like, cool, want to take point? And he's like, what? And he like thinks about it, and then he's like, okay. And I was like, something about that, I just really loved it. And then after the whole fight, he's like, so these things are like in our market with us, like I'm gonna be working with them. And she's like, yeah, we'll talk about it, but also if you want to be involved, yes. And like, I hope he stays.
Yeah, he seems cool.
But yeah, something about it, I liked it.
Yeah, because he was there was like a whole thing with him and like Lucy working together too. He just seems like a cool dude, and I want him to succeed. Yeah. Also, this is the point where our old mate Vaughn comes in with an extra set of teeth. Which is like,
that poor guy.
I mean, yeah, but adults only get one set of teeth, and now, like, he had the opportunity to get more, like, because I've always been jealous of sharks because
for their teeth.
Wild.
Yeah, because they get infinity teeth. Like, as their teeth fall out, they just grow new ones, and that's the coolest superpower you could get, I reckon.
What do you do to your teeth? Like, why do you need more teeth?
It's because all the coffee.
No, I don't drink coffee.
I know, but I just thought
I'm paranoid. Well, this is the thing. I'm trying to take care of my teeth because I don't get other ones, and that's terrifying to me. Like, I could, I got to take care of these ones, and I would love to not have to worry about it. Like, imagine if you knew that if your teeth fell out, you could just grow new ones. Like, sharks are living the life. And this is why it's part of why I want my body to be fed to sharks when I die, but apparently that's illegal.
There is so much about you that I am just curious to learn more about, Elliot.
I think I talked about this at the Maui Brewing Company.
Yeah, I do.
My
remember
family
that.
refuses to feed my body to sharks if I die, and it's an ongoing fight that we're having.
So inconsiderate.
Yeah, they're pretty selfish. But yeah, like, that's the thing. If a shark chips a tooth on one of my bones, they don't have to worry because they'll just grow new ones. And Vaughn had the opportunity to have a second set of teeth that he could have used, and then he has spare teeth, and it's wasted on him.
I feel like that reminds me of, like, what is it? That there's some kind of like a disease where, like, your body starts like turning almost into bone. What is this? Munchmeyer disease? It's like, yeah, it's like your connective tissue. It's really, really, really rare. Like your
I think
muscles,
I've heard of
tendons,
this.
ligaments turn into bone, and it's fucked. Yeah. So,
Wow.
which is a lot more depressing than what you were
Fibrodysplasia.
talking about. Fibrous dysplasia?
Fibrodysplasia ossificans progressiva is the
Good
full
job
name.
on that pronunciation.
Yeah.
Because that's
Got to use that med sci degree for something.
There you go. Yeah. Anyway, okay. I feel like that made it depressing. Let's go back to the teeth.
Yeah.
Speaking, this is God damn it! I probably shouldn't bring this up on a recording, but it just reminded me of it. There's a movie called Teeth that I've watched before, and actually, my friend got her braces off, and I threw her a getting braces off party, and we watched Teeth. I don't know. Oh my gosh, just the puns keep on coming. It's great. It's about vagina dentata. If anyone has heard of that, no, have you heard of that?
I've heard of it, but I also feel like the word, like the name, does give away.
It kind of like, yeah, it's kind of self-explanatory. It's like, yeah, some girl, like, yeah, she's, I don't know, she has teeth in her vagina, and the hijinks and shenanigans that she gets into, and that's all I'll say about that. Which is a really weird way to put that, but it's a weird movie.
There's a really creepy tooth-related episode of the Magnus Archives that I remember. I remember like 4 episodes of the Magnus Archives very clearly because they were the most traumatic 4, and one of them was this guy just keeps finding more teeth. I don't know what was so scary about it, but it just lives rent-free in my head. But yeah, okay. Sorry, going back to Pale again. We'll steer
this is what happens
out of this tooth talk
when I'm here. Okay, I apologize, but
no, you're fine. Turns out the town has actually been put to like a Sleeping Beauty sleep. So Avery and Liberty get the goblins to act like all children do and wake everyone up early.
Best gobos, best children.
Yeah, I mean that I can vouch for that. They wake up so damn early. And
well, I was gonna say, I feel like the one thing that's funny about Avery and goblins, like I didn't anticipate her vibing with them so well because she always seems like a little on edge, like a little anxious, as like maybe as like an older sister, especially with like Carrie. Like it's always like oh fuck, like this could go real bad. And so even here where it's like, okay, cool, yeah, let's use these goblins, there's a moment where they're like, we'll draw on their faces, and she's like like she just sort of like panics, and Liberty knows how to channel it well, and it's so fun, like the panic.
Avery and her relationship with children younger than her is the sort of thing that like I don't have clear enough thoughts on off the top of my head, but like I want to go back and like see somebody do an essay on it in the context of like the whole story, because she's always had this very weird relationship with like kids younger than her thinking she's awesome, and she doesn't get it, and she doesn't quite get them, but they all love, like goblins fit in so perfectly to that because she finds goblins very confusing, but also you know they love her, they love Snowdrop, like she gets kids, but also she and you know paths obviously also, as we talked about earlier, overlap with goblins in that childhood stuff a little bit, so there's like there's some really cool stuff I think to analyze there that's just all been too slowly built for me to be able to do it, because I always lose the forest for the trees with these stories. Also, this is where Jasmine says adieu, which was I was like surprised she stuck around for this long, but then I remembered that she's Lucy's mom, so kind of course she did. But I don't know, I really liked this vibe of her being like, I've tried to stay around as long as I could. She acts as a nurse here. I think she helps remove Vaughn's spare teeth. And it seems like good for Lucy's sake that like Jasmine is sticking around as long as she feels like she can, and like putting all that effort in to like understand this situation as much as she can, so she can give an informed no when Lucy asks to keep going, probably. But
I could see her. I was surprised that I actually was almost surprised that like she voluntarily left.
Hmm.
Because I feel like, I don't know, I just kind of expected her to just keep staying, just keep going along, especially with like having to help people with their injuries and things. So I thought, she's being very very, very cool about it.
You're right, because a part of her logic is she's like, well, I will be a target. And I was sort of like, yeah, that makes sense. But also, could you teach this ability to Lucy to identify that I will be a target and maybe should not run in by myself?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
But we'll get to Lucy's ability to run in by herself in a sec. Let's finish talking about Avery.
Also, I feel I'm impressed with like her preparation in terms of Jasmine. Although I guess it kind of makes sense. She knows who she's been hanging out with, but like she just had fucking sutures.
Yeah,
she had just sutures in her bag, and along with that, like probably some hemostats and some like chloroprep and stuff to clean. And it's just like, man, you've got it. Like you got everything you need.
If you're explicitly like a nurse heading onto a battlefield, I mean, you could speak to this better than I can, but I assume that's probably what you would do.
I go to a lot of battlefields.
Well, no, but I'm saying if you were like, if one of your kids was like, hey, I'm going to a war, and you want to come, you'd probably bring a first aid kit or something.
Oh, for sure. But like most first aid kids don't have sutures, but I'm sure she could get it from work. So that's
she'd have like a super nurse one. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not saying I would go to work and borrow supplies. I'm not saying that.
I feel like stealing stuff from the hospital is a universally thing. Everyone does that. I've never met a doctor or nurse in my life who hasn't nicked a couple of things from the hospital.
Okay, but I can't say that I do.
Sure.
So,
no, you do. Everyone but you does it.
Everyone but me does it. Oh yeah, I would. Actually, like I don't know if you remember Malia, but like Malia and Ben, like a year or two ago,
it was
going to some
2020
protest.
during the protests.
Yeah, and I like gave them a bunch of shit.
Yeah, she kitted us out.
Yeah, it was a lot of medical stuff, and was like, okay, if you see somebody, then they're bleeding, this is how you do a tourniquet, and this is, you just have to hold pressure here, and blah 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 blah. And I don't remember what I gave you, but I kind of freaked them out, but it wasn't the goal. But I was trying to.
No, it was good.
We're prepared. Yeah, and so do you still have that stuff? I don't know, maybe not.
I remember seeing it at some point during the move, but I'm not sure. Somewhere.
Right. It's somewhere. I'm like, I've seen sutures done a lot. I've never done them, but I think Jasmine, it sounds like, I mean, Kennett's a smaller town, so she probably has had to do sutures before. But yeah, I'm in a bigger hospital, so I don't have to do those. But I could figure it out if I had to, I think.
I think the other fun thing about like being a nurse in this situation is like starting to blend in the magical side to healing into her repertoire. Like she's sort of doing these sutures, and then Avery just hands her this bottle, and she's like, yeah, pour that on the wound and it'll close it up. And like, you have to imagine Jasmine like must be thinking like, what is
heck?
this? What are the side effects?
Yeah.
Like,
yes, is this going to interact with anything? Like, yeah, is this going to increase my chance?
It'd be like that. Like that's, when they open up the Kennett Magic School, I feel like they'll have to add like a nursing side. It'll be like people like Jasmine, like you get normal nurses who go there and have to learn the magical side to all this shit.
Oh my gosh, think about like because they're gonna have a school nurse. That lady's gonna, or that guy, whoever it is, they're gonna have to
see some shit.
They're gonna see some shit. Yeah. It's gonna be a rough day, but maybe there'll be a practitioner and it'll make it better. I don't know, but yeah, no, that's cool. Oh my god!
But yeah, now that the town is awake, they're all pretty ticked off hearing about Charles's new settlement, and so they all head up to investigate. Avery sort of trails the convoy using her black rope before ducking off for her secret side mission, which is figuring out what the fuck Charles and the Aurum are up to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Nothing good.
Yeah, I love this plan. Reminds me of when Avery stole all of Charles's stuff in his dream in like
that was so
12 or 11.
good.
Like just letting all this fight go on, and like then just Avery sort of slips into the back and rifles through all your shit when you're not looking. Like this is starting to become a pattern for her, and I'm all for it.
It was so good.
Also,
that's great.
she calls out Tenant 2603 for standing on her spot on the telephone pole, which I just thought was very funny. Like
that was really funny. Like,
it is her spot, to be fair.
I mean, yeah, like I mean, she's not used to
she
sharing
put her
it.
name on it.
Yeah, it was a relief that it fucked off, but
yeah, that kind of scared me.
Yeah,
out there or whatever.
It's out there.
But anyway, enough of this funny, goofy Avery shit. Let's get into the even funner chapter that we're
Let's get depressed.
We're here for finish off 24.5. Lucy, she is riding out the storm.
Yeah, this chapter fucked me up so hard.
This girl, like, she is ridiculous. She's badass. But like it's like, are you trying to die?
Yeah, it's she really feels like she's trying to make Jasmine's point for her in chapters like this, doesn't she?
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, yeah, I mean oh jeez. I mean, it's like, I know that kids, because I mean, despite all this crap, she's still a kid, think that they're like,
yeah, it's a teenager,
invincible and not gonna die. Oh, excuse me. But I don't know. It's like, and I'm not saying they necessarily feel invincible, but like, I don't know. She just keeps going and going and going and going, and I feel like if you have, that's cutting ahead a little bit, I guess, but if you have dogs of war that are telling you need to take a step back, you know, like maybe you need to take a step back.
Yeah. I do love, though, Lucy frames this as a bit of an ultimate test of all her trifold duelist aspects. Like, she's talking about how she's using Guillermo stuff to dodge the raindrops, which, just as an aside, is a fucking insane thing to be doing. But then, yeah, she also needs, like, her bubble yum stuff to deal with, like, taking the hits, and then the dog tag stuff to sort of keep going and make it hurt more. Like, she's really synergized. It's that sort of thing where it's like, oh, Lucy's just doing the textual analysis for us. Because these, like, you know, we're sort of talking about how these are 3 chapters where each Kinneteer goes through some big sort of character journey stuff for them, and Lucy just kind of ties a bow around hers. That's nice. It makes this job easier. So yeah, Lucy absolutely killing it. And I definitely noticed there was, like, the way Lucy thinks about this storm reminded me of how she used to think about being viewed publicly as at the start of the story. Like, it's this sort of constant onslaught. She needs to be on full alert. She's looking in every corner for danger. Like, it was the way she used to always think about how the world was judging her, and she needed to be perfect and bulletproof because the world would knock her down if she wasn't literally perfect. And now she's doing that on steroids because she's literally having to dance between raindrops and watch every shadow for, you know, lightning bolts that will kill her and stuff. It's like ultimate Lucy challenge sort of stuff.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, awesome. And I'm just so worried about her, which I'm not sure when exactly to start talking about some of these decisions and stuff.
Yeah, when grandfather shows up, maybe that's where my notes on most of it are. So that's my vote. As a slightly upbeat note, like, so we see what these storms are like in action, because we got a bit of rain in Verona's and a bit of rain in Avery's, and it was, you know, rain annoys me, so it seemed annoying. But like Lucy's, this is actually awful, and part of me is like, I can see why Deb is the way she is if her hobby is hanging out in these things. Like, this really explains a lot about Deb. She also needs to be
awful, or like,
well, just what? I don't know. If you're the sort of person who spends a lot of time in this environment, of course you're going to come out of it as an insufferable piece of shit. You know, like, it seems relentless. Like, she makes a lot more sense to me now.
That does make sense. You're not going to be really nice.
Yeah,
like, you're not going to be a pleasant person.
Exactly.
Like, hanging out in a storm.
But yeah, so, you know, as she's walking through the storm, Lucy Lucy runs afoul of a pair of ugly bogeymen who she takes out, but then she almost succumbs to the hot one. That's her descriptions, not mine.
This was so fun in terms of like the way that boogeymen are broken down. I wish that I was more on top of my like chart of I had this document that was trying to track different things in the other verse so that I could like make better predictions and stuff in Pale in comparison, because like ostensibly the podcast is about being able to use all of Pale to talk about Pact. And so whenever there's like this fun like categorization section of like here's another and we're gonna break it down into more fun stuff. Like, I mean, I tried to put a lot about the Fae courts and stuff into my analysis of Pact, and just this little bit of like, oh yeah, boogeymen, like here are a bunch of different types. It's just like so fun, and like, you know, some of them are in pairs, and some of them try to trap you in the house, and some of them turn you into them, and like, wow, so fun.
Yeah, it's like this categorization of horror movie monsters, which I think is what boogeymen are like sort of mostly supposed to pull from. Like, I loved that one she brought up where it was like, oh yeah, it might get killed, but then the person who killed it just sort of becomes the next one. And I was like, oh yeah, I think there's franchises that do that. Like I think that happened in Saw or some shit. So like, yeah, like I agree. It's like Walbo's attempt to sort of categorize horror movie tropes, and that's really fun. Like, this is the sort of thing where I imagine there is a Pact Dice document that goes into way more detail about what each of these categories are. Okay, not yet is the comment we're getting. But you know, like I'm specifically
like a great foundation for one.
Yeah, like, and I'm specifically avoiding doing any Pact Dice stuff until the podcast ends because I want to only know what's in the story, so I don't actually bring in spoilers and stuff. But this is the sort of thing that gets me really excited to dive into Pact Dice stuff once this podcast is over. Like learning about all the types of boogeymen, and like I think Seekers, the Path thing that came up last week, that was another Pact Dice thing, I think. So yeah, lots of fun stuff to read about.
Yeah, and I don't know, something about like the idea that a boogeyman would have like a partner made me feel really happy. Like, oh, he has a friend.
Yeah, the Abyss isn't
Malia,
that bad.
I love your outlook on all this.
It was nice.
That's not what I thought. I love it. I think it's very wholesome.
And they were Abyss mates.
That's so dumb.
That's a good one.
That's a good one.
Yeah, I do feel like I have a lot of feelings, and I'm very like Pale, and Jenny's very like, this is horrifying, and Elliot's like, this horrifying thing is hilarious.
It's a nice like broad spectrum.
It was very funny trying to talk about Verona having all those cables in her. Yes, I was having to hold back a lot, and I still think it was far too much for Malia.
Did you say you thought it was hilarious to talk about?
Yeah, like it's so gnarly.
Yeah, damn, yeah, Malia, you're right. Yeah, because I did not think that was hilarious. I was like, holy shit, this is terrible. This is terrifying.
That's what's fun about
it. Yeah.
Speaking of,
I love
this ego killing boogeyman.
Oh wow. I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, well, because I wasn't ready for that, because Lucy starts like really being down on herself, and I was like, oh, is one of Anne's echoes affecting her? Because this feels ruinsy. And then we learn that it is one of the boogeymen, which is like, I didn't think that's what the Abyss was, but like, this was the most upsetting and intense part of these 3 chapters to me. It's like, this was awful. And then it transitions from Lucy thinking all these bad things about herself to the boogeyman just starts telling them to her. Oh, yeah. This was rough.
It was awful, but I mean, it's not really the right word to use, but I'm like, I don't know, this type of like, I like this type of boogeyman or other like more than just like the hack slasher type of things. I just think it's more interesting. Not that the other stuff isn't interesting, but I just think it's very interesting. But it was very horrifying. I don't know.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's interesting, because I'm like, Verona getting cables stuck in her. this is great, give me more. Whereas I see this stuff from Lucy and I'm like, oh no, this is too much. I know.
And I'm like, ooh, I want to read more about this.
Yeah.
See, this story has something for everyone.
Yeah. and something not for everyone.
Yes. Very true.
On Kingslingers, Matt and Scott talk a lot about how Stephen King remembers what it was like to be a kid so well, like, and that he can like make you remember what it was like to be a kid when you're writing. And in this, like I don't think I could bring these sorts of thoughts up and this sort of like dialogue, but like I have done this to myself like a lot, and like it was too real. It was like,
yeah.
this is exactly how it feels to do this to yourself, and it was like very painful and upsetting, and it felt, and like, you know, because then she's like, presumably these things that she thinks about herself are like true things that she does think about herself, and so like arguing against that and trying to like poke holes in it like wouldn't necessarily work. And like the thing that helps is being like, oh, this is an external force like making me feel this way, but it's still like so traumatizing and awful. And I don't know how Wild Bow is able to be like, yes, these are the horrible things I say to myself.
It did really, I agree with you. It really did hit, like, I don't know, it was very relatable in a weird, you know, it's
in
like
an upsetting way.
Yeah. Like, I definitely have thought a lot of, I mean, I think everyone probably has to, you know, a certain extent, but you know, we've all thought things like that, but but for some reason I like reading about it. But it was kind of awful.
And again, it's that like classic like Lucy stuff. Like this is the sort of stuff she was getting hounded by at the start of the story or before the story, just dialed up to 100 as well. Like this is, you know, she brings up class rankers specifically as like, this is the sort of shit that used to hound her, and the story's bringing it all back.
Yeah. And it, for some reason, it reminded me of that was, so I don't remember if her name was Minuet, but the other who eats Alexander, was that a boogeyman as well?
No, she was a ghoul, I think.
Okay, because her whole thing was she'd like find children who were a ghoul. Musette. She would find people who were dying, or children, and like give them a really nice last day, and then be like, by the way, can I eat you now? And I was wondering if like something about this, her whole vibe reminded me of Musette, except like toxic and bad.
The other way, yeah.
Yeah.
Was that bit where she's like, hey, listen, I've had to rush this, so I'll kill you quick so that it's fair? Which I was like, I don't really understand how that's whatever. And then and then it was sort of like, oh yeah, I could take an hour, which increases your chance of living, but and I was like, that's such an evil threat. I love it.
Yeah, she was the worst. It was bad.
I also love the quick death. 20 minutes still seems awfully long to get tortured to death, I reckon. But yeah.
Non-bringer, that's the same thing with our mom.
Yep. Our mom also worries
exactly
about
the same. Yep. She's worried.
I feel like
personal history.
Yeah,
it wouldn't be shocking to learn that, like, just from his Google searches for research for the story, Wildbow's on a list somewhere. Like, I just feel like to know the stuff that he's written about, it must have flagged at some point.
Yeah, probably, but that's a risk, you know. He's got to be willing to take, I guess.
And I mean, that'd be really funny, because if somebody ever tries to call him out on it, it's like, why were you Googling about XYZ? It'd just be like, you just send them the chapter. You just be like,
read this. Yeah. Like, it wouldn't have been as amazing if I hadn't Googled that.
Yeah, okay. But so luckily Ribs is here, and so is his flamethrower. So we kill the hot boogeyman. And then Lucy teams up with Ribs to take out a St. Victor's practitioner, and also some of his summoned others. And then Ribs basically forces Lucy to summon Grandfather.
Ribs is the best.
He is. Yeah. I love the way he just kind of takes control in this whole situation. Like when he's just like, Lucy, you do not need to fucking prove anything. Shut the fuck up. Go to your room. Call your father right now. And then he like makes her take the earring off so that he can tell Grandfather what's up. Like, just I'm so glad John died to let these guys go, because they're great.
Damn out of context. I don't know. Someone like gotta be careful what you say, Elliot. Someone can make like a little soundbite out of that. And it's like, I'm glad John.
I see why John went to the lengths he did to free these guys.
Oh yeah. These
What
guys
I
are
do think
great.
it's funny, Grandfather was the one who I'm pretty sure almost immediately like found out about Lucy and was like, John, you fucking moron, you should have gone with Lucy. So
Yeah.
I love that now he's the one who's seemingly doing that. Like that's a great little sort of bit of storytelling.
That is kind of wonderful.
Yeah. I do think it said something about how willing Lucy was to take out her earring. Like, she didn't really fight it.
Mm.
And maybe that's like
Yeah.
the trust she has in the dogs, or like where she was at. But I was surprised that she just took it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One part of me wonders, because I think the interesting thing about like these dogs that John died for specifically as well is they were spun up with less dependence on war. That was like a whole thing that the Alabaster went over. So it's like there's an interesting angle with Lucy having a relationship with these dogs specifically, that it's like they're less war driven than dogs of war should be. Anyway, also, yeah, Lucy captures this practitioner and she tries to reason with him. She also tries to reason with some of the others, and I just that felt like a nice beat of her. Like, Lucy's always been dealing with the sort of justice and being a policewoman aspect of being a practitioner, and it's like even in these terrible situations, she's still trying not to abuse that power. Like, she doesn't want to kill people. I was going to comment on how brutally she was killing them at one point, but then she addresses it herself later. But it's like she's trying to do the right thing as much as she can.
Yeah, doesn't she? Is it this part where she's like, promise you'll be chill, or was that Avery or something?
Yeah, and then the thing screams at her, so she kills it, which is still like brutal, but fair.
Right. I mean, it's just
I think it's important to her, and I think it's important overall that she makes that attempt to like offer them the like don't be a cunt out. There's also, I do love this bit when we first start to realize Lucy's got this early stage hypothermia. It's because it just starts hitting her as waves of like physical nausea. And I was like, oh my God, Lucy, you've gone full Verona. Like, this is how bad she's doing. Her body's having to like shut down for her to take a fucking step back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She would have, I mean, yeah, she would have just gone till she died. And
yeah.
Yeah. And I'm okay. So I was like mad at Lucy. And like, because at the beginning of the chapter, like these 3 chapters are kind of like paralleling, because it's like what each girl is doing in this like one lead up to this battle. And the other 2 are totally surrounded by their allies, and then like there's a big scary fight, but there's always people, there's lots of communication, whatever. And we open and Lucy is like by herself in the middle of like the desolate, horrible whatever, like the people around her are all trying to kill her. There's like rain, and I was like, what the fuck is happening? Like, is this going really bad, or are they trying to do some sort of stealth mission? I imagine that like everyone was super spread out and like experiencing kind of the same thing, and I was like, this seems dumb, but okay.
Yeah.
And then turns out, no, all the others are like joined up in a big group to fight off the whatever the fuck, and Lucy has decided to like do this to herself. Like, she eventually summons Ribs, but like, what the fuck, Lucy? Like, I just like, it makes so much sense that she doesn't want these shitty people to be able to like take claim over this, because this is important. But she didn't even bring the dogs with her, and something stealth mission. But also, I was just like so mad at her. Like, I feel like Lucy needs to learn how to. She doesn't need to learn how to make friends. People really like her, but she needs to learn how to like value friendship and like prioritize it.
Yeah, I mean, it's exactly the shit Jasmine's worried about, like what this war is doing to Lucy's mentality. Because the thing she keeps iterating here to Ribs, when, Ribs is trying to talk her off the cliff, is she's like, no, I need to prove, like, I need to do stuff. And like, again, she's reminding me of when Verona was at her worst in Arc 12. And like, this is why I'm so worried about Lucy, is like, all this dumb bullshit of going out by yourself. This is like exactly what Verona did at her most problematic. And like, Lucy's just seemingly following suit. And like, yeah, you're exactly right. There are all these people who care for Lucy and like will help her. She's just like not connecting with her. And again, I feel like I used to say that about Verona in Arc 12 as well. So it's just like I'm so worried about Lucy right now and interested to see where it goes. Grandfather dulls those fears a little bit here, but like yeah, it feels like there's still more to resolve with Lucy and her. Because yeah, like I agree. Like Verona and Avery are so integrated with their teams and all that, and Lucy just completely ditched hers. And I'm like, what do you? This is the Kenneth. That's what Kenneth is. Is like you're a team,
right? Because like, yeah, fuck Grayson, but Grayson's not here. You know, like
yeah.
the dogs, Matthew, Anthem, like a bunch of people who are probably able to like support you in a nice way. I don't know.
Well, because like I think like as we're talking about these 3 chapters sort of fitting together, I think each one, as well as getting each Kenneteer in their own niche with a group of people and kind of replicating their dynamic writ large, each chapter also very personally presents a Kenneteer with a more traumatic version of like their original trauma that they had before the story. Like Verona's group is attacked by the drop call, who like takes the space away from them and then starts to take away control of her own body from her. Like she can't control her own actions, which I think maps a lot to what Verona was going through with her dad at the start of the story. Avery also obviously gets just literally isolated from the rest of her group with Pauline. And then the Tooth Fairies, when they attack, you can't talk because you can't open your mouth. There's like a lot of parallels to and then like, yeah, Lucy's in this hostile environment where everything's pushing her down. It's making her doubt herself. And so like that is what she was going through at the start of the story. And it's like what saved Verona and Avery were their networks. And what does save Lucy here is her network. Like Ribs is eventually able to make her go to her room and talk to her dad. But like she gets in way more trouble than them because she's ditched her network at the start of the chapter. And it's only the fact that she kind of had to bring Ribs into like the building on fire and then eventually managed to call him for help that she gets through this at all. Like she was at real risk of being on her own. It's like, yeah, like we're talking about, it feels like these 3 chapters are like Kenneth survives because they've built these networks and they're saving each other, and here's worse versions of what the Kenneteers went through and they survive because of their networks, and Lucy barely makes that happen.
Yeah I feel for Lucy because I feel like, I don't know, she's probably had to learn this almost like as a defense mechanism, I would think. In terms of like, you know, her dad passed away, Paul, well, he was a complete dickhead, like not his fault, but Booker like had to leave, John died, Gillimay, and so everyone keeps leaving, and so she's like, well, I can't get close to people. I'm going to push everybody else away before I can get pushed away. I think that's really sad.
Right? Yeah. I think this has been bubbling up for a long time in the story. Like, I think we've had comments like this on the podcast before. It's just like, this really feels like it's the worst it's ever been. This is the most Lucy, you need to back the fuck off and use people that it's ever been. Yeah. Like, it's not come out of nowhere, but it's just like, okay, Lucy, this is really becoming a problem.
Yeah, like it's hitting its peak, or it's going to hit its peak, and it needs to. It's either going to go one way or the other, you know. Hopefully,
it was just funny because I guess coming off the last 2 chapters before this, I was a bit like, yeah, look at the Kenneteers go. We're nailing it. Avery beating her old traumas. Verona, you know, getting eviscerated by cables, but still kind of nailing it. Like everything's going well. And then we sort of hit the Lucy one. It's like, Wildbow just can't let us have nice things.
No.
Like this has always been, there's always at least one Kenneteer who's a bit behind the others and struggling more. And I just want them to be happy.
Yeah, I think that part of it is like they've been doing really good in Kenneth. Like they've been like creating this community that's not going to let Lucy do this. Like it's not going to let Lucy push other people away. But when I was reflecting on it, like, you know, Verona has the hooligans and, you know, some other people that are like her friends that she really clicks with and is really close to. And Avery has like, you know, a bajillion trillion friends all over the world or whatever.
Yeah.
But like Lucy, like she has Verona and Avery, but they never really hang out. And then
she has like
Booker's
Mia
not
and stuff.
there. Right, she's mad at her mom, but then like with like Mia and the other teenagers, she's just sort of like, ugh, like fine, whatever. Like none of them are like like click as well. And I think part of that is because Lucy is so stressed and feels like she can only really depend on herself, because so far that's kind of been true. Like on Reddit, Propaganda Pagoda pointed out that like Lucy's been waiting for other people to be people who step up more than just people she can rely on when she asks for their help. And so like Ribs doing this is like cool and good. And I think that Lucy like doesn't want to push people away. She just doesn't trust them to be there. And so with a little bit of reflection or something, maybe she can get to the point where she's still a super badass, but also has fun.
Yeah. I also think like a part of it for Lucy as well is like something like Lucy, and maybe it's a bit because this is how like she is with other people, but Lucy also just seems convinced that everyone else will lose all respect for her if she makes like one mistake. And that comes a bit from that feeling of constantly needing to be bulletproof because, you know, racists basically would seize any opportunity to be biased towards her. But yeah, it's leaked into these close relationships. Like we see it with the dogs. Like Lucy will have an interaction with the dogs and she's like, oh, if I do something wrong, they'll think I'm an idiot. And it's like, no, they obviously won't. You guys are close enough friends that it's going to take more than one awkward moment for them to hate you. But she can't get past it. And I think that's like what some of this stuff with Ribs, she keeps talking about, like, I have to prove myself, like, blah, blah, blah. And like Ribs is just standing there like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, you're good. Like, everyone is here for you. Like, you're being ridiculous. But like, Lucy just can't quite see that.
Yeah. I think part of my emotions about Lucy is that I relate a lot to Lucy's flaws. And I don't relate a lot to her strengths. And so I think that like that is like the hardest part for me with Lucy is like holding herself to like an impossible standard and beating herself up over it. And I feel like I have a lot of memories of being like too serious and being annoyed at like my peers when I was younger. So there's hope she can be silly, but also I like literally don't know how to relax. So
that's right, because I feel the same about Verona. I relate to Verona's problems, but whenever Verona's doing well, I'm just like, this is alien to me. So yeah. Anyway, I guess getting back to Lucy and things not being completely terrible for her. Grandfather does show up. He talks some sense into her and he makes her chill the fuck out for a record 10 minutes. That's a huge PB for Lucy, I think. And like, it's so funny because like she doesn't make it easy. Like Grandfather, she just keeps trying to like set up defenses, and Grandfather's like, "Don't spend any more of yourself." She's like, "Yeah. I just need to. I'll put up this rune as well." And Grandfather's like, "That doesn't seem necessary." But yeah, like this was the point where I realized I've been misunderstanding his name in this whole story. He's not grandfather as in the father of a father. He's the grandfather because he's actually managing to be a dad for Lucy.
It was there all along.
Like that is the most grand thing a father can do is actually fucking stick around for Lucy and not,
That's true.
Go to stupid Carmine contests, not naming names.
You're so mean to John this episode.
I know, I did. It's so funny. That's my coping mechanism.
Like, let's just be really fucked up. It's okay.
Oh, sorry. I'll let sleeping dogs lie. I'm sorry.
Oh my gosh, you suck. That's ridiculous. I did think it was very sweet. It was like when, he and Lucy, or I don't know, he got and then like made her like kind of lay against him for body heat, and she was like, "Oh, I feel like this, feels nice."
Yeah, she's like, "What is this? what is this feeling
emotion?"
Well, it's a bit like, because she comments that she's like, oh, it's a bit different to like hugging Wallace or whatever. And it's very similar to like Horseman had that chat with Teddy like 4 chapters ago, where Teddy was talking about how he just wanted to be with Carolyn and confide in her and stuff. And Horseman was like, dude, it sounds like you want a mom, not a girlfriend. And like, trust me, you don't want to get those two things confused. And now we're kind of seeing with Horseman's
like,
best friend,
"Shut up."
grandfather. It's like, it's like the other way around. Lucy's like, just so not used to having a dad that having this good dad here doing like a dad hug is just kind of for her. She's like, it's like a boyfriend hug, but different.
Yeah. Like, oh, you poor thing, Lucy.
Yeah.
Jeez. And she keeps being, I don't know, just like how often she's like, I don't want you to feel obligated, and I know you're gonna feel obligated, and I don't want you to. And he's like, no, I want to do this. I want to do this.
She's gonna scare all her friends away by constantly making them need to say shit like this, you know, like this is what's going to scare them away. It's like, Lucy, I love you, but like, could you just not be insecure about it for 5 minutes, please?
I think she'll get there
one day. Yeah. But yeah, no, rested and recuperated, Lucy and grandfather make it to the Kim house and begin weakening the defenses even more than the storm already is.
Woo!
Look, I mean, sleep's good, but 10 minutes, man. I mean, I guess she must have been.
She really.
I don't know. For that to have made such a big difference, like, wow, like that.
I think part of it was also the like staving off hypothermia or whatever. Not hypothermia.
That's probably really huge.
Is hypothermia the one I'm thinking of, or is that the opposite of what I'm thinking of?
Hypothermia is cold. Hyper is hot.
Yes.
Yeah, it's also like she got to like one of the things she notices as she's starting to collapse from the hypothermia is that all of her runes had deteriorated, and so she like redoes them and reinforces them, and it's like stuff like that, like as well as the 10 minutes is probably just like it was she just fucking took a step back and reset, which is just like yes, at least obviously you needed that, you were collapsed anyway. It's
like just you couldn't make it 15. You can't, like, I don't know. I'm just like, you couldn't make it a little bit
I think
more.
he was pushing it as far as he thought he could without her waking up and being like pissed that.
Yeah, I think,
imagine if she woke up and he was like, it's been 2 hours. Like, she would have killed him.
But she could have, because she was rested and recuperated from 2 hours.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So
killing, just as grandfather's dying, it's like, this proves my point. You're killing me super easily.
See, you needed it.
I mean, it seems like shit is going to pop off even harder now because Lucy is trying to antagonize the Kims. We've got Avery in the background doing shenanigans, and I think Verona's hopefully taking 5. But I imagine she's got more shit that she and her group are going to be throwing at everyone. So I'm excited to see where we go from here. I wouldn't be surprised if it's an interlude, actually. Like, go back to Charles' side for a bit.
It's going to make me mad. I mean, like, not that there's an interlude, but just getting Charles's point of view just makes me mad.
Well, it wouldn't be Charles's specifically, because actually that could be funny if it was just a chapter of Percival talking would be like, that would have been great extra material.
Extra material, yes.
I'm so like that's the biggest loss I think we've suffered at the loss of extra materials has been not getting an extra material that was all 99 titles. Probably would have been asked to write for Wildbow, but I would have.
Yeah, that would have been kind of great, but that would have been pain.
Sorry, if somebody writes out all 99 titles, I'll read it for All Packed Up too. Like, I'll read it out loud. I'll do the full name. Like, come at me.
That reminds me of like Rogers and Hammerstein Cinderella, where like what's his name's reading off all the titles of like the princes' names. I don't know if you saw that, Elliot.
Highness.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Christopher Rupert.
Okay, we need to watch some movies. Okay.
Actually, I do want to talk to you two about something like that after this. Off the
Ooh.
Sorry. That's on the side.
That's not. Doesn't really apply.
It's a fun teaser.
I did mean to talk about it with Malia yesterday and I forgot, which is why I'm saying it like this and doing a blatant teaser.
Fun. I did want to say one last thing about the chapter is like whenever I see Seth and Cameron together, I get like upset, and especially like the last we really saw of them was Cameron like being like, "Hey Teddy, I'll go patrol with you or whatever," and Seth being like, "No, you said you'd like sleep with me tonight, basically, and I'm worried about that, and I wonder what happened, and I hate everything." So
Cameron probably heard about the storm and was like, "Oh, thank
you.
They're invading."
But it seems like this is the next day.
Yeah,
So...
true. I'm going to go with my idea. Not because it makes more sense, but because I like it better. I'm just going to ignore the facts and go with my feelings.
I mean, that's more fun sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we haven't had a Seth interlude, have we? Or have we? We had the Cameron one.
Cameron.
Was he at the end of like 14 dot something, or there was?
He may
I
have
feel
had
like there was like
partial
a
one.
tiny couple paragraphs.
Yeah,
where
I
he
feel like
goes
he may
and
have had a
asks
very
Charles
small
for
partial
forgiveness,
one.
or was that?
No, he was forsworn
Yeah.
in Fernanda's chapter.
No, but when he goes to be
when he was
unforsworn.
unforsworn, yes, that was it. Yes.
I don't know if that will count as a full one, but yeah.
All right, I'm just trying to think of people on Charles's side whose perspectives we haven't seen yet. I feel like it'll be another St. Victor's practitioner. I don't know if there's any of them we're missing. Hey, where are the cool St. Victor's practitioners like Nomi and shit? I suppose they're
yeah, last we saw them they were in Kennet. I feel like Yoon talked about wanting to leave.
Yeah. Oh, I hope they did. I'd love to put them in Escape the Story tier. That's the best tier to be in. Joel, I don't know if Joel would be a fun POV. I just want to see him get shot by grandfather. Like, he's a dragon hunter who shoots fire at people. He's an idiot.
What about
there's the one who was pissed at Teddy for convincing Donnie to kill his dad. I mean, there were so many like rando like St. Victor's practitioners who joined them that it could just be someone we haven't really heard of. But
or that the Alair Forsworn. Again, we need a better term for those guys.
Right.
But you know that chick that Teddy was having his panic attack and so he scared her off.
Right. That'd be a fun one.
Oh yeah, fuck your goad, girl.
Oh my god.
What if it's like not one of Charles's people, but what if it's just like Vaughn trying to fix his face? Just trying to get the teeth.
But that could be, what if it was like even like, I don't know if you could do a whole big long interlude from an innocent perspective, but yeah, someone on the way.
No, but
with
if anyone could do it, it's Wild Bow. If anyone can write a long interlude about teeth being pulled out of someone's face for like over and over and over.
Yeah, I was thinking more the people who are heading up to, you know.
No, but you know, that's what we'd be expecting. Yeah. That's what we're expecting. It's gotta be something else.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I guess we'll find out soon-ish. Again, I've become completely detached from what the schedule is these days. So I will we'll get a chapter when we get a chapter. But before we go, we do want to quickly pull. I've got a Reddit comment from 24.4 I just wanted to pull out. We haven't had any predictions in the last 24 hours. Shocking, no one. But I did want to put this comment from Old Lace 1, who points out something I noticed the first time I read the chapter, but forgot to pull out in the notes. I'm so glad they did, which is that Melissa and Bracken are listed by Avery as boyfriend and girlfriend, which is huge for Melissa. I mean, that's the only thing she's wanted this whole fucking story, just about.
Yeah. Congrats, girl.
Good for them. Well, mostly good for Melissa. Bracken, I don't know.
I think good for both of them.
I know.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't know enough about Bracken to know if this is a good thing for him. Like, you know what I mean?
Interesting. Yeah, there's an interpretation that Avery just sort of said it, and it's not totally true. But I mean, someone had an arm around someone or something. So
yeah, this is the Turtle Queen and Monty all over again. I don't care if it's not official. If it's official, it's fine. Like Turtle Queen and Monty are boyfriend and girlfriend. They can put whatever other labels they want on it. But like, it's just synonymous labels as far as I'm concerned.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Good for Melissa, not scaring him away, and good for Bracken.
She put the work in.
It's happy. Yep.
Yeah, I like that. The ship is welcome regardless of how it sails. The point is as far as I'm concerned, there's a romantic angle to whatever the Monty and the Turtle Queen have, and yeah, we can put whatever label we want on it, but that's how I'm viewing it. It's definitely more than friendship.
You guys missed my silly text joke where I said I always thought that it was apprenticeship.
Sorry, are we talking about shipping?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So it's not friendship.
I know it was dumb.
It's apprentice shipping.
It's apprentice shipping. That's what I really want to think is the deal with Seth.
Oh, I see. Yeah, Seth and Cameron, I apprentice ship.
Yeah.
Actually, I don't even do that.
I don't.
No, I don't even do that.
Bit, yeah. I mean, if she's a cool auger, that's cool. She should join Nico's badass coven of curl.
Yeah, the broken Bellinger girl. She's
augers.
A prime candidate.
Gameth.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, see, if you can make those bad tooth puns.
Yeah, that's
I agree.
Yeah, no, Cameron's the one person in the story I think who I'll also just like straight up kink shame, because whatever she's got going on with Seth, like I don't support that. Whatever she sees in him, it's unacceptable.
Yeah.
I think she thought he was cute, and now it's just too late, you know?
It's too late.
Yeah, I'm not about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, okay, yeah. So as Bellictal says, we all apprenticeship Cameron and Nicolette.
Definitely.
Yeah, that sounds great. Seth
yeah, actually, so Wildbo's was saying he's an attractive guy who wears a suit and tie, and I mean,
a well-fitted suit.
I mean, Jenny, you're helping to prove my point right now, which is just as a straight man, I think I can say this: the standards that we're held to are extremely low. So that is fair. Straight women women attracted to guys do need to take a bit of a step back and reevaluate their standards because they're too low.
I mean,
and also she's like isolated, like everyone else, like her age, especially the girls, like treat her like shit because she's hot. So
I'm not hearing any overt disagreements with my statement though, so I stand by it.
Oh yeah, no, I wish that.
I mean, I'm trying to think about it though, but I mean, well, yeah, I mean, you might be right, but still, it doesn't change. Like, yeah, like a well-fitted like suit and tie. There's just something. It is kind of funny looking at like, I don't know, a lot of women, like at least on Reddit when people ask like, oh, like what's your, thing when you see guys, like, and people are just like muscular forearms or like muscular arms, and I'm like, yeah, I feel that too, So yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. Cool. So yeah, Cameron, get better standards. But yeah, sorry. I thought we'd try and do a discussion question. I don't know when this episode is coming out. So hopefully you'll have enough time to answer this before Ruben is back for our episode next week. But the discussion question we wanted to hit you all with for however long you've got is, which element would be the worst storm to work in? Obviously, we saw Lucy dealing with, I guess, a water or ice storm. But yeah, which element would be the worst storm to work in, and which element would have the coolest elementals? So it's sort of a two-part question there.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Is this one we're supposed to try to answer, or?
I mean, if you've got an answer, you can hit us with it. You do now. You've asked the question, and that's
See, I would say beryllium would probably be.
Are you going the science route? Are you?
It's like someone laugh, please laugh.
A shit storm.
Yeah,
that's a good joke.
Okay, that's pretty bad.
Yeah, that's a bad one. Yeah,
I actually had a real one though. I was going to say a firestorm.
They have those
here
in Australia. Yeah,
I feel like that would be a really bad one.
Yeah, we get fire tornadoes, which are pretty sick.
Yeah, that's fucking. That's terrible. I don't know. That's my pick for a bad one.
I feel like an earth storm would be pretty bad because that's just rocks.
Yeah, that's true.
That's
just rocks. Yeah, that was pretty.
I wonder if that'd be like a sandstorm kind of thing. That'd be bad.
Yeah.
What's
Best
worse,
elementals,
a sandstorm or a storm of the song Sandstorm? I can't even say that 5 times fast.
Yeah, no, we're getting Darude jokes in the chat as well. So I think that's our cue to go. The episode has run its course. We're now doing Darude Sandstorm jokes. So you can answer that discussion question without Darude Sandstorm jokes in the discussion thread, which is linked in the show notes down below. This is hard to do with 3 people, I guess.
Yeah, I know. I'm like,
take turns. Somebody pick an outro bit.
Review us on Apple Podcasts / Stitcher, please. Pretty please. And check out our Twitter.
Yeah, we post memes every day.
Memes every day. This is very polished right
now. You can find out more about the other podcasts in our network by going to doofmedia.com. Sometimes we do fan art contests. Sometimes we do other stuff. Someday we hopefully will sell merch, and you'll be able to find it on our website when we do.
We've been planning it for a long time.
It's been 2 months from getting done for about 2 years now. So yeah, it's any moment now.
It's gonna be great.
We just figure out how to do it.
We're gonna be so stoked. Like once it happens.
If you want to give us money and not get merch for it, the place to go is patreon.com/doofmedia. You do get bonus episodes though, which is arguably cooler than the merch. I guess that depends on what merch we actually end up selling, but
that's true.
You get a bunch of extra shows. If you're a Kingslingers fan, obviously you get the other levels of The Tower, which is where Matt and Scott do like adaptations of Stephen King stuff. The High Ground has been on a bit of a hiatus, but we're coming back soon, I promise. And we're covering R.I.P.D. 2, everyone's favorite movie. So you're going to want to be there for that.
I'm so excited. Whenever I'm sad, I put on The High Ground.
R.I.P.D. 2. What? Rise of the Damned.
Don't do it.
They're not covering the first one. They're just watching that.
So yeah, well, we will be talking about the first one because George and I accidentally watched the first one, so now we have to watch them both.
Is the first one a lot worse?
No, the first one's better. It had Ryan Reynolds in it, and he was wasted.
Oh.
Like it was a Ryan Reynolds movie that I didn't like, which is weird.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah. But then so we accidentally watched the wrong one. Now we get to watch them both, which neither of us is thrilled about.
Sorry. Wow. That's rough.
Yeah, and then don't forget to stop by Wildbow's Patreon as well. Patreon.com/Wildbow. He deserves your money more than Dead Tim's does. So sling him some cash if you can. He's a better Canadian ambassador than Dead Tim's.
100%.
All right, see you, everybody.
Bye.
Goodbye.